game.
Alright. Welcome to It's All in the Game, y'all. Got a special guest on the channel today. I'm here with an old friend of mine, Shawn Taylor. He's just been through some things he's going to talk to us about today. Shawn, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name's Shawn Taylor. Recently just released from the feds, a.k.a. Money Magon, MMT, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Medical marijuana business.
How much time you did in the Fed joint? How much time you just did in the Fed joint?
I just did a 5 flat on a 7.5 year bid.
For growing weed?
Yeah, just for growing marijuana.
Man, that's something else, huh? You didn't have no guns or nothing?
No.
Damn.
No violence, no drugs, just marijuana.
Yeah, that's some shit, huh? All right. Well, tell us a little bit about that. How'd you get into did you start growing? You start selling weed first, or how'd you get into all that?
Oh, man. I think when I was 15 years old, I got my first pound of marijuana.
Okay.
From Mexico, from one of my Mexican buddies. And I took off after that, and I started messing with some other guys that had a lot of pounds of what they call dirt weed, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Sold that my whole childhood.
These kids nowadays don't know nothing about that, do they?
Man, bricks with seeds in it.
Man, I'm saying.
And I was in and out of juvenile jail my whole life for marijuana. That's all I've ever really been in trouble for. So I did like a year here, a year there, 6 months, 8 months. And then I decided to go straight and took the little money I had and invested in a cell phone store. The cell phone store really wasn't doing what I wanted to do. So I got a job at this factory. And I just remember that day that I heard the radio come on. It was like, medical marijuana just passed. It's legal in Michigan. I think I quit my job that day. Took the money I had and started investing in a marijuana card for me, my wife, a couple of my friends, and we just started growing.
So was you a caregiver at that point?
No, I've never been a caregiver.
Right, yeah, you couldn't. Yeah. So first of all, just for the folks who don't understand, before we get into like the rest of your story, you want to explain how the caregiver patient system was working at that time and how like that how that affected like plant count and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so each patient is allowed to have 12 plants in Michigan. And if you have a felony, you can't be a caregiver, but if you don't, you can have 72 plants, which is 5 patients plus your own 12 plants.
Okay.
So me having a felony, I had my own personal 12 plants, but I also got my wife, her 5 patients under her, so she could grow 72 plants, which I overseen the plants, and it was just in her name. So in my household alone, I was growing 84 plants.
Legally. Right.
So, I mean, after my first harvest with them first 12 plants, I made $5,000 profit, and it was really quick and easy.
So
then I just
was that like, as far as the way the law worked, I mean, can you grow for those 5 people and harvest that bud, and like you just got to sell to them 5 people, or you're allowed to just do what you need to do with that bud, or how's that work, or is that some kind of a gray area, or like what was your understanding of that at that time?
Everything was in a gray area. That Michigan didn't really know how to legalize it, how to make so where your plants went or where your overages went. So it kind of was just up in the air, and I took advantage of that.
Right, because they'd allow you to have those 12 plants per person, but there was also like a weight limit also, right? Like people could have like 2.5 ounces or something. Was that what it was at the time? So obviously, if you're growing 12 plants, I mean, the folks out there that know a little bit about growing are going to realize this, but for those who don't, like, you're going to get way more than 2.5 ounces off of 12 plants. So if you're growing 72 plants or 84 plants, they're supposed to be for 6 people or 7 people, you're going to have a whole lot more than those whatever 10 or 12 ounces you're supposed to be harvesting for those people. So that results in a lot of overages. So when he's talking about overages, you're talking about harvesting a few pounds of weed, and you're supposed to be providing a few ounces for these people. But I mean, the state ain't really hip to growing at all, so they didn't realize that was happening.
So it was messed up. But obviously, my mentality was just to buy, sell, flip, and
of course.
At first, I sold product to people that didn't have their cards, and then when I realized the significance of what I was doing and what I could do with what I was doing, I started selling to only people that had cards or patients that legally through the state that I could sell to, so I didn't lose my little business that I just started and my future dreams that I planned on becoming,
So how did you handle that? If somebody came up to you and they had cash in hand, they said, I want to get this, but they didn't have their card, did you just say, fuck off, or did you say, I'm going to help you get your card?
Man, you could have been my best friend 10 years before that, and you come up to me trying to buy weed for me, and I'm going to tell you no, but I'm also going to direct you to a doctor that you can get your card for, and as soon as you leave that doctor's office and we put that paperwork through, then I'm going to sell you some product. But
so at what point did you like, you started out, you had your room with your people right at your crib. At what point did you develop a relationship with a doctor that you could like send people to get their cards? That you had a doctor that knew, like Shawn McGon sent me, I'm here to get my,
what's funny is I boasted and talked a lot of shit about having a doctor on a payroll, but I really never did. It was just the doctors that were in the area doing doctor visits, and we just knew who they were. Like, they wouldn't ask really too many questions.
Right.
But it was certain businesses that did it. There was like 3 doctors that you could bring anybody to, but personally, I didn't know the doctors.
Right. Yeah, because
people that ran the clinic.
I remember, like, I have no doubt what you're saying is true. Like, I remember though, like, at one of those instances, there was like a doctor who was like set up in like an upstairs office at a house or something that was just there for a few hours, and there was like 40 motherfuckers there, and they were all there because they knew you, bro. The whole motherfucking place was just jammed with people that knew you, bro.
Yeah, so technically I didn't know that doctor, but I knew the nurse that ran that clinic.
Right.
And she obviously would tell me what time she was going to be at that location. And I would bring, like you said, 30, 40 people, and I would pay for all the people to get their marijuana card, and I would designate their plants where I wanted them to go.
Okay. So now we're talking about, like, the next step of the operation. So you were just growing for your people, and you'd sell some overages to people that had cards. At what point did you, like, really step it up to that next level where you were, like, paying for folks' cards and saying, look, like, I mean, I'm assuming then you're like, look, I'm gonna grow this weed for you too. Like,
that was when I got my warehouse, and when I first started growing marijuana, I was getting like 2 to 3 ounces a plant.
Right.
And when I maximized, because you only could grow a certain amount of plants, so I was putting 1 light over 1 plant. I was just vegging a little longer, and I was trying to pull the most I could pull out of it, and I actually started pulling a little over a pound a plant.
Uh-huh.
At the end, I was getting 2 pounds of plant, but at this time, when I'm getting a pound of plant, I'm doing really good, and I'm getting more and more businesses going. So I took that when I started pulling that pound of plant or more. That's when I really started needing more cards. When I started seeing that dollar sign, and
sure,
trying to open more businesses, more factories, more warehouses that I could multiply my profits by.
So. The way, like, I've you and me go back. I've told a few friends, like, my partner, I've told them a little bit about your operation. The way I always, like, kind of understood it, I'd say, like, I'm talking to my brother and say, look, brother, if Shawn knew you, he'd say, look, if you don't got a felony, I'm going to pay to get you your card, and you're going to be a caregiver. I'm going to pay to get your patients their cards, and then I'm going to come and grow that herb with you and set up some kind of arrangement where maybe we split the harvest or something, is that pretty much the way shit ran? That's why kind of how I assumed you was doing things with people. Would you just find them and, like, pay for their shit and grow their bud and, like, break them off financially?
If you could legally be a caregiver, or even if you just had 12 plants, and you wanted to grow, or you were struggling or something, and you couldn't pay your bills, or you were just my friend and I was trying to help you, I'm gonna bring you to a clinic, pay for your card, set up a grow, pay for the equipment, pay for the nutrients. and then I'm going to give you half of the harvest. I'm going to take half of the harvest.
Yeah, of course.
And your first harvest, and then after that, it was yours for free, and then you just had to. Then I wanted to buy your product wholesale, but you were on your own, and then your next harvest was 100% yours.
You would just give them all that equipment and everything. They wouldn't even have to buy you out the shit you bought for them.
No, because I was making so much profit off that first initial harvest.
That's legit.
I would just get up out of there, you know.
Man, look.
So I would spend a couple grand, but I would make 20.
Right.
I would harvest 20,000, take 10, give them 10, maybe a little extra for the equipment. I would take off top, depending on who you were, really.
Right. Sure. And this is the thing that a lot of people fail to recognize. I mean, the people who know you and knew you back then all know this, but like, you were helping a lot of people back then. I mean, people think, oh, Shawn was just getting these people their cards so he could grow weed and make money. But like, look, I mean, you know, I've been a glass blower for 20 years. At the time, for about 2 years, you bought every motherfucking piece of glass I made just to look out. You know what I mean? You were helping a lot of people. Like you said, if people couldn't pay their bills, you'd help put them on. It wasn't just about you getting paid. I know you was getting paid, but you helped a lot of people. A lot of people hurt when that shit went down.
Lives and bills were dependent on them harvests, and actually gave a lot of people jobs.
No, absolutely.
Something that they like to do or could do.
And became good at doing, take some pride in doing. And technically from each individual standpoint, all those spots were legal, right? Like as far as Michigan law, each spot was legal under Michigan law. Is that pretty accurate?
Every single grow that I was, or sale or transaction that I was involved in, was 100% legal through the state.
Right. So did you know throughout this period, did you like maybe just in the back of your mind know like this ain't quite right? I mean, I know these spots is all legal, but there's something about this I know that ain't quite right. The feds could fucking come down on me. Or were you just like, man, this is legit. I'm completely legit. I got nothing to worry about. Like, how are you feeling about it?
For years,
right?
While I was doing it, like, because the police kept coming into my warehouses or my houses, and they knew me by name, and they would tell me how good of a job I was doing, or how I got the best security measures possible on my buildings,
right? And
they just kept giving me the thumbs up and showing me that it was okay for doing what I was doing. But in the back of my mind, I think maybe 5 years into it, when I really started making good money, I kind of got a little worried because I couldn't. I mean, what am I going to do with all the money? How am I going to make it legal? I can't pay federal taxes. There's no way for me to pay. I'm paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in state taxes for all my bills and electric bills and warehouses and rent and properties and stuff like that. But how am I supposed to pay them?
Yeah, and that's how, I mean, that's not necessarily you didn't get caught up by the IRS, but that whole issue with making too much money is what a lot ended up, becoming a problem for a lot of people, it seems like. So at what point then did you realize that there was any problem before the day you got kicked in? Did you have an inkling, like in the weeks or days ahead of that they were looking at you? Or did it just go down and all of a sudden you were like...
No, hell no. I knew they were following me. I knew the feds were on me probably maybe the first week of their investigation.
How early how long did they investigate before they busted you?
I think they investigated me for like 4 or 5 months.
Okay. And how did that start? How did you find out about it? Oh, maybe 6 months?
But I got somebody had told me the first time I found out, and I always pay attention to my surroundings, but
of course.
There's like some Tahoes parked across the street from one of my main warehouses all of a sudden, like every day. So it kind of made me paranoid. And then I ran into another buddy that's a grower, and he has friends that work at the city of Muskegon. And he said, yo, the feds are in town watching a warehouse. I just want to let you know, I know you got a warehouse. But he had a warehouse too, in Big Blue, and there was a couple other people that had warehouses too. And so I'm thinking, okay, maybe they are watching me. And if they are, they're going to see that I'm doing everything by the book, and they're going to leave me alone.
Right.
So the surveillance got worse and worse because I just noticed them everywhere following me. Oh. I noticed planes following me, helicopters following me, and when I would be out in the woods, like at one of my outdoor grows, they'd be flying over the top of me. People thought I was paranoid. But and then I had people driving by me taking pictures while I'm driving down the road.
Jesus.
People driving by taking pictures out in front of my house of me.
And you saw all that happening?
I was so, listen, I mean, I could say I was paranoid, but I would be on the phone talking to somebody about something, and I would just start talking like I'm talking to the feds, like, yo, you guys, I know you're watching me. I seen you drive by my house. And the other people on the other line of the phone probably thought I was crazy, but I'm like, I'm trying to let them know that I'm not doing nothing wrong, you know, back off.
Right. So
that was the biggest year when they got me. You know, I was harvesting so much product.
So what led to the feds like showing interest in you?
People fucking getting caught doing illegal stuff and putting my name out there, and then I guess my lawyer told me that the main thing was somebody had an out-of-state sale. They got caught with some pounds. They said something about one of my friends, so the feds started watching them, and they seen me, realized I was a bigger fish.
Okay.
Started watching me, and then I had a couple banks, like Bank of America and some other bank, red flag.
Because you were putting cash in.
And the cash smelled like marijuana. So, right there, gave the feds all they needed to start investigating me.
So, somebody from a state where it wasn't legal, I'm assuming, came and bought some pounds, you're saying. They went back. Okay, so they went back to Ohio where there was no medical law or anything, any kind of protection for them, and they got busted with it. And then they put some kind of local investigation on. They alerted the feds, of course. And okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was messed up.
Okay. So,
watching me.
So what'd you say?
They started watching me and seeing what I was doing, and I think they exhausted a lot of resources. And the months that they were investigating me was the longest government shutdown in the history. Like, the government was shut.
That was during that government shutdown.
The 2012,
yeah.
13.
Yeah, Obama or whatever.
The government was shut down forever. And that was the time my investigation was going down. So I think they just had, like, they could do whatever they wanted because they weren't getting paid. And then the day that the government reopened was the day that I was in cuffs in the Kent County Jail.
Really?
Watching it was saying the government reopened.
Really? Yeah. I never put that together. No shit. So that day then, let's fast forward to that day. How did that morning? You went to bed the night before? Like, how did you wake up? How did that day go?
Man, listen, the night before I got drunk and I was looking at this van online. It was like $50,000 brand new, and I posted a picture saying,
I remember.
Just bought this new van.
I remember.
I was just drunk talking shit, and I went to bed, and the next morning I wake up and the feds are gun loaded at my door.
Yeah. All right, so that's the end of segment 1. Please stay tuned for the next couple segments in Shawn's story. He's with us. He's going to be telling us about what happens after that morning when the police came to his door, what happens between that period and the time when he goes to the penitentiary, as well as, of course, the time he spent in the penitentiary leading up to today. So please like and subscribe. It's all in the game, y'all. Stay tuned for more.